first panel session on career and entrepreneurship. And I have a few questions that I'll be asking my panelists. And then if you have any questions, please begin to write them down. Or if you're bold enough, you can step forward to ask those questions. So whether you're already doing business, or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, or you're already in career, or you know that you're going to someday be in career, please ask. Please come forward to ask this question. So my first question will be to Mr. Abayomi. What would you say are the top 3 competencies and skills that a professional must cultivate in their 20s that will make them stand out in the long run?
Yeah, thank you. Top 3 competencies. Maybe I won't limit it to a particular number of competencies, but I'll just speak more broadly that there are various stages in your career, right? In your 20s, usually you're in the earlier stage of your career. 30s, going into 40s, you're sort of getting into the managerial position. And then beyond that, maybe you're in leadership. So in your 20s, in the earlier stages, what you want to develop very importantly and quickly are technical competencies that are relevant to the job that you are doing, right? If you are, for illustration purposes, a programmer, you must be very good at programming, right? Yes, as you go, in the rank and file in an organization, leadership skills, management skills will become important. But at that level, nobody's giving you a team of 10 or 5 to manage. So what they want to see from you is how well you are able to do that job. If you're an accountant, can you balance the accounts and there are no issues? If you are in HR, if you are a secretary, are you able to do that work technically well? If you're in mass communication, are you able to write proper grammar, right? So it's the technical competencies that I would speak to and say, at that level, make sure you develop those skill sets. With whatever skill sets, whatever technical skills are relevant to the job that you are doing or pursuing, please make sure you develop those skills. Because if you don't develop those skills, 1, you may not get those jobs in the first place. 2, if you get those jobs, they might not keep you on that job for long. And at that level, they will look at you and say, okay, we can promote you to the next level, maybe a senior officer, because you have done very well at that technical level, and they'll give you more responsibility to showcase that skill set. So in summary, the response is this: develop the technical capabilities that are required for the particular job that you are doing. I don't know if maybe, Beatrice, you want to add to that?
Thank you very much. First of all, we haven't greeted each other. We are very African. So I must say good morning. How are you? Tusalimiane hewani. For those who are not Kenyans, that literally means let's greet each other in the air. So yes, technical skills, I agree with him, because that's what gets you to the table. But now that you're on the table, what is going to set you apart? For me, I think of 2 things. Executive presence, how you portray yourself in front of people, how you talk. And especially right now that you're in your 20s, don't wait until you've gotten to the ExCo or to the board, then you start developing these things. Start doing them now while you are young. Good habits never run out of fashion. Dressing well, being visible never runs out of fashion. The other thing is visibility, because now you have to get ahead. You're in your 20s, you've gotten through the door. How do you get yourself visible? How do you make sure that the work that you are doing, the technical skills that you are doing, are being talked about? Because we usually say that a lot of decisions about promotion are not made in the boardroom. They are made out there when you've gone for lunch, when you've gone for team building activities, when you've gone out for market visits. That's when people look at you and they say, this is board material, this is a person that we can move ahead. The truth is, people, you can write this and then one day you'll call me and buy me lunch. That nobody speaks for you. That's how the corporate world is. Your work doesn't speak for you. Doing excellent work is important, but it is you who will promote yourself. You have to take charge of your career and speak for your work. And there are strategies to do that. Maybe next time when GWR is around, we can have a session on how to self-promote yourself and how to make sure that you are being visible in corporate. Because you've all joined at 20 years, you are all engineers, you all got an A, didn't you? to get to that job. So how are you going to be different to make it to the next level to be promoted? A part of being, having executive presence, making sure that you are speaking up for your work, making sure that you are being seen around and you are being set apart, is also developing your communication skills. Communication skills will never run out of fashion. It's just the level that you need to communicate at, all right? And part of, again, let me go to executive presence. Never ever come to a meeting and leave without taking the mic and saying something. All right, so if you're planning to do that, can you start planning to tell us at least one thing before you leave this meeting, okay? Make sure that we see you and we remember you. Those are skills that you can work on. We are working in an information age. You can go and Google, but make sure that you work on these skills. You are being seen in the workplace. You are setting yourself apart. You have good manners. You are dressing well. You are talking to the right people. You are being seen. You are picking projects, like he said, he did train people in Excel. That's part of being visible in the corporate world, because all of you joined at the same level. How are you going to set yourself apart? So that's what I think.
Amazing. Please, a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. So my next question is to you, Beatrice. As young adults, how do we balance work-life integration and prioritize our well-being while still chasing or while being ambitious about our careers?
All right, that's a good question. My answer to that, first of all, you've done an excellent job in telling us. Please clap for him. Woo! Imagine, don't assume because this was a free session, I was seated there and looking at it, I've done skill development. This is what you pay for 100,000. So this is not cheap material. What is done is what we would pay for somebody to fly in, somebody to come and do the same skill development. So he's done an excellent job. So when I was looking at through how you balance work-life, to have work-life balance, what came into mind is that work and life are like this, both hands. Put your hands up like this. One is work, one is life. Are you able to work with one hand only? No. For you to be able to grab something or for you to get work done, both of them have to balance. The problem is sometimes when we get into work, you either get too much into work, you are working so hard, and you are not doing life. Always remember, both of these hands have to work together, and they are supported by pillars. Your fingers, do your fingers like this. These are the pillars that he has spoken about. He's spoken about, can we remember, he spoke about finances. What else did he say? Spirituality, family and relationships. What else? Finance, finances, Charity, very important. You have to give back or you're going to become bloated, okay? What else? Self-improvement. We said the biggest room in the world is room for improvement. That's the biggest room that there is. So you have to keep working on yourself and improving yourself. That forms the fingers of our hands. So you've said work, life. This forms the fingers that are going to be put here. Is there any of the fingers that you'd want to be cut? If I asked which of your fingers would you want to be cut? No. Even the thumb, the way the thumb is away like this by itself, would you like it to be cut? No. Do you know if you cut your thumb, you would not be able to open a page? Try and open a page right now. You are not able to open a page, and you would not be able to use almost 70% of the tools that are there. That's how important you have to balance work and life. Both of them have to work together. The pillars that we've talked about are the fingers that we've looked at. So when I was thinking about this question, I thought about my own life. Like you had, I'm 21. But when I was thinking about it, I thought it was a journey that you take through. He's done the first step. The first step is make sure you put a career strategy and a personal life strategy. Now the next step is to operationalize. One of the things he said that was very powerful is if you don't execute, maybe you can repeat that, the quote about execution.
So it's without strategy, execution is aimless, and without execution, strategy is useless. Yeah.
We have finished step one, done very well. We put together the strategy for your life and for your career, right? Now it's execution. When it comes to the workplace, my dear people, when you join work, the first thing you will do, go read about their policies. What do their policies say? Some companies have very good policies that can help you balance out your work life. They have training programs. They have, we call them flexi-work programs. They have flexi-work where you can report at 7 a.m. and leave at 3, or report at 9 and leave at 5, okay? Those are some of the things that is going to help you put up in your strategy. Take advantage of them. Unfortunately, for some of us, we came to realize later, we thought training will always be there. We did not know COVID would happen and budgets would be cut. So you're always saying, I'll do training next year, I'll do training next year, until something happens and the budgets are cut, okay? So we've put that together. When you get to the workplace, you've put your strategy together. This is where I want to be in terms of spirituality, in terms of finances, in terms of family. I want to be married at this age and to have children at this age. You've put all that together. Now how do you operationalize it? Put it in your schedule. One wise person told me there is no work and then there is life. All of them happen together. You have to merge them together. When you prepare your calendar, your employer has asked you for 8 hours, right? In those 8 hours, make sure you're even taking care of your well-being. You have schedules where you're telling yourself, at 10 a.m. I'll wake up and take 2 cups of water. I will walk around and talk to somebody. Because I told you visibility is important in this, our corporates. You must be seen. I must make sure you take care of the 8 hours. And after that, you put your schedules, including spirituality. One thing I admire about the Muslim is within that whole schedule of the 8 hours, they put prayer. Yeah. And they do not negotiate about it. At 1 p.m., I will wake up and I'll go and pray. Okay? Make sure your life is occupied around that time, the hours that you have. At 5 o'clock, I will leave. And what will I do after 5 o'clock? That is where now you start your life. And that is where you'll say either I'll go to the gym at 5 p.m. Every Monday I go to the gym. It's there covered in the schedule. Or I'll go to church where you're taking care of your spirituality. Or I'll go meet with my mother. Including birthdays. Do not separate those two. Make sure your life is, this strategy that you've put together, it's very, very balanced in your calendar. So that is what I was thinking about. Make sure that you have a daily schedule, a weekly schedule. He also mentioned a very good thing about making a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan and a 1-year plan. For me personally, what I do you know elections in Kenya are very emotional, eh? That is my 5-year plan. Every time a new president election comes is when I sit down and now make my 5-year plan. I say, this government promised to do this. Now as I talk about how the government did not build the road, did I myself, Beatrice, did you achieve the 5-year plan that you had? So every time we have an election, I sit down and check. And every time we have the budget being read, which is again a very emotional process in Kenya, I review my goals, which is a very important thing that you have to do. So put your schedule, put your life in there. The other thing that can help you is to build a support system. Another step. You don't have to do everything. There are some of the support systems, especially for young ladies. Soon you'll be going to work and you'll be having children. I remember one thing that I was advised, which is another point that I'll talk about, is put a support system. Our mothers were very wise, by the way, as much as they did not get to the education. Didn't you always grow up with a relative in your house? You had either a relative living with you, you had an auntie, you had somebody. Okay, they were coming because you guys were living in the city and they needed to attend college. But the truth is, those people provided a support system. Because I believe our mothers were the first one to go to the market, to go out and become employed, right? But they had an auntie that would ensure that you would not misbehave. Isn't it? I'm not asking you to get your relatives and start living with them, but consider it. Consider whether you can have somebody that can come and live with you. My sister tells me, she's a businesswoman, she tells me that in China, I Googled it and I checked, that it's the grandparents that bring up the children. It's the grandparents, that generation. And I thought to myself in the morning, could it be that's why China is becoming a superpower? Because they release the most productive generation to go out there and work. While the parents, the grandparents instill the right values into the children. If you are able to live near your mother, if you are able to live near a system that can support you, a group of people that can support you, especially when you're bringing up your children, when you come from work, you need to talk to somebody, make sure you have that. And that's why we're calling it work-life balance, meaning work, go to church, but at the same time, make sure you have sober friends, and you have sober friends that you can work with. So always have a support system. Another point that I have, that a tip that I'd like to give also to the young parents. At the beginning of the year, or at the beginning, this one I was given by one of the CEOs in Kenya, top CEO women in one of the conferences that we attended, and she said a very important thing, that at the beginning, she used to miss a lot of her kids' activities, all right? So the kids would come in the evening and ask her, Mom, why didn't you come for our sports day? And the mother would say, you know, I didn't come for your sports day because I was busy. And they told her, how come you work with so-and-so in the same office, but them they're able to come and you're not able to come? You work in the same office. The policy is the same. And she had to go and ask this colleague, what do you do? And the colleague gave her a very good tip. Like I said, in your calendar, at the beginning of the year, go to the school of your child, pick the calendar, the activities that they have for that term. Come put them in your work calendar. Sports day on Monday, 10 to 12. That part is blocked for the whole of that term, meaning nobody can drop a meeting in there. This day, we are having this activity. Go back to policy, get your leaves in place, okay? Don't put calendars and then insist you're at work and you're not at work. HR like me will get you, okay? So make sure you go and put the policy and take leave. On that day, you'll be comfortably seated participating in your kids' activity. It's your mother's birthday, put it in your work schedule. Put it right there. It's your significant other birthday, put it in your work schedule. Don't try and separate the two. That is what I'm going to tell you. Leave your work and your life together, just like you put your hands together. All right? Good.
All right, thank you. A round of applause. Thank you. So how do we leverage global opportunities to impact our community, like our local community?
Yeah, well, interesting question you ask, you know, which brings us to the concept of thinking, you know, global, right? Some people describe it as being glocal, right? What that means is think global but act local, right? And it's very important that we realize that the world is not as far away as it used to be in our parents' generation, where, you know, a war might be going on in Europe and you may not even hear about it until several weeks later. Right now, as it's happening, there's an online video somewhere. So that clearly implies that we are in what they describe as a global village these days, right? Where you can have customers in China, you can have customers in the US, you can have customers any part of the world. You can have a service here, and that service can reach to various parts of the world. So first thing is you must have a mindset of, you know, a global mindset, meaning I may be in Nairobi in Kenya today, but the value I have, the work I do, the profession I choose can actually impact other countries as well as it can impact mine. I give you an example. COVID made us realize, and I think it made many HR professionals realize, that we can get employees to work from wherever they are and still deliver value to the organization, right? In fact, there are some countries today where they try to attract people to come to I can't remember exactly the country now, but I know I have seen a few countries that are beginning to attract foreigners to come to their country, to live and work from their country. Not necessarily take jobs that are in their country. You can live in that country, but you can be doing a job for a company in another entirely different country, right? So if you understand that perspective, that today organizations have changed their policy to the point where they allow maybe a work from home day. I don't know if that is in place here in Kenya, but I know a number of organizations in our own country, 2 days work from home, 3-day works from the office. In fact, some are beginning to realize that it saves them electricity bill, right? Because you have fewer people at the office on some days, so you power down some of the light and the air conditioners. So you must realize that that's a new world where we live in. You can live in Nairobi and be working for an organization in another country entirely. So you must have that global mindset, first of all, but you must also have global skill sets, meaning the skills that you have, can they compete in the international market? Are you as good as that Chinese boy who is maybe younger than you and is able to do what you do, maybe faster than you are able to do it, right? I know there's this platform where people do freelancing now. I don't know if anybody remembers the website, but there are a number of websites where you can do freelancing work, right? So you are earning in foreign currency even though you are not in that particular country. So have a global mindset, but have global skill set, such that when the opportunities are available on the global market, you're able to take advantage of those opportunities, and that can begin to impact yourself and also your local community where you stay. So those two things are the things I would say: have a global mindset and also have global skill set that can compete in the international market. Thank you.
A round of applause, please.
All right. He's talked about global mindset. He's talked about skill set. I will talk about global tool set. Yes, that sounds nice. Eh? So we have right. Mindset, skill set, tool set. Good. When you're working at a global platform, if you are good at what you do, it doesn't matter from where you're working from, whether you're in Kenya, whether you're in whatever, whether you're working from a whole, okay? If right now you're able to give a cure for AIDS, the world will come for you, right? True. It doesn't matter from where you're working from. That means whatever you do, even if it's speaking, let's talk about us who do public speaking and are professional. We have to learn to pronounce things the way the world will understand. You don't want to go to talk to people and they're not understanding you, right? That means you have to get either the tools that you need to be able to do your pronunciation well, the tool set that you need, whether it's the videos, the lighting for those who are going online and training a global world. Make sure you do that, because if you provide the same quality, the world will make a line to come for your product. So get the right mindset, get the right tool set, and get the right skill set. That's what I say.
A round of applause. All right, so we're bringing it to the audience. Does anyone have any questions?
My name is Dawood Morodia Omobola. I'm 21. Something fun about me or interesting, I started my company at 18. Wow. Yeah, and I love cooking so much.
Wow.
So my question goes to Mr. Abayomi. What are the things you think a business owner should do to build an evergreen system and structure? Yeah, thank you.
My name is Angel Deng Baraza, and something fun about me, I'm a really extroverted person. I'm really funny to be around with because I also do content of comedies and I really love singing. Yeah, so my question, I'm forwarding it to Mr. I'm sorry, I don't know that, Abayomi, yeah. Okay, thank you. So my question is, I feel like a lot of us Gen Zs, as we call ourselves, you find that a lot of people outside here, we're after jobs rather than like studying fast. So my question is it okay to first do some work, have your own money, or you're supposed to first study, then go after the job itself?
Did you get the question?
Yeah.
So my name is Mureke Brian. Professionally, I'm a data analyst. And I have two questions for the panel. So the first question is in your career, how, when, and...
So sorry, did you tell us something fun about you?
Okay.
We want something fun about you, something interesting.
Okay. Something fun about me is that I just love playing badminton.
You love what?
Playing badminton.
But okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So the two questions that I have. The first one is, at what point and when do you know that it's time to transition to another, maybe company? That's the first question. And the second question is to Yomi. How do you bring the aspect of entrepreneurship in your career? For example, I've heard in your career, you, apart from maybe the daytime job that you have, you're doing other things like consulting. So how do you blend in the entrepreneurship skills into your career? Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think his first question will go to Beatrice, and then Mr. Moleni take the other question. So.
Hi.
Okay.
Just before you finish, my name is Edgar Wafula, and I wanted to connect this to Mr. You have a special name. Something funny about me is that...
Give me a Kenyan name, please.
Mr. Ruto.
Ruto. Please.
Okay. Kevin, Uh, I have a question, and something fun about me is like I like volunteering. That's why I'm actually in the welfare team.
Awesome.
In the context of the 20s and 30s youths who are represented here, and actually resonates with our theme of maximizing the 20s, I really interacted intimately with your vision, especially on the part of office politics. We are early career researchers and specialists. I really want to commend you just before I ask you a question, that while coming up with your presentation, I was really privileged to interact with your thoughts, experiences on that, though you finished it very early, and your inspirations during your time. It was a very excellent presentation that you were denied with time, but I want to say that all youthful students who are here should really embody it. Unlike similar presentations, yours was one that this university student, especially the beacon of the University of Nairobi, should relate perfectly, as it talks about our local circumstances, particularly politics in work offices. I am really facing that. In my journey of understanding human anthropology, and as the case may often be, I was literally tired, weary, and exhausted. But now I'm really rejuvenated, focused, overflowing with enthusiasm and youthful energy that I'm willing
Amazing.
to look forward. My question is, I want you to tell me, especially paradoxically, how can I manage this work politics, especially as a young person? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. We will try to respond now to the questions, and I would really lean on you as well on the office politics. First question, I think it really speaks to, you're saying you're running a business. How do you make sure your business remains evergreen, remains, relevant, more or less? I think that's what you're driving at. And I think this goes to the point of building systems and structures in your business. Where many entrepreneurs make the mistake is you build the business around you as an individual, and you fail to delegate to other people to help you carry the load as you build that business, right? If you don't have systems and structures in place, you will not be able to do what they describe in business called scaling. Scaling is growing, is actually expanding, and doing much more of what you currently are doing, but at a higher level, maybe 10 times more than you are currently doing. What you need to do there, the concept really is building systems, building structures in your business. It's a whole course. I have a separate course on it, and it's an extensive discussion. But to summarize it, what it comes down to is knowing that every organization, if you start as, maybe just yourself, you must get to a point where you have teams of people who do some of the work you used to do by yourself. When you start a business, maybe you are the salesperson, you are the accountant, you are the marketing officer, you are the finance person, you are the driver, you are the delivery man. But you can't do that forever, right? If you keep controlling all those activities by yourself, you will only be able to do so little, right? So businesses realize that as you grow, as the revenues grow, you must begin to outsource some things or hire people to do some of the things that you used to do by yourself. You can't learn every profession. For example, you are the product developer. You develop the product, but you can't also learn accounting and be balancing your book yourself. So at some point, you must be willing to say, I need to pay someone else the money to balance these books for me. It's either you hire, it's either you outsource, right? So the concept here, I'm summarizing a lot because it's an extensive course around structure, around systems. But the point here is this. If your business will transcend year 1, year 2, year 5 to year 10, you must build systems and structures into that particular business. You must do it. If you don't do it, that business may not survive for long. I know there's statistics from the US. Most businesses crash within the first 3 years. I think maybe 50%. The remaining who survive within the next 2 years, by the time they are 5 years, I think another 20% of them crash. So, and what often happens is not the lack of ideas, it's actually the lack of systems to hold that business in place to transcend times and seasons. So the concept really is about building systems, building structures, so that you don't spend so much effort doing everything by yourself. All right, so that's the short answer I'll give to that. The second question that I think was directed to me was around the comedian, right? The lady who is extroverted. I think it was around job before you study or study before you get a job, something like that, right? I won't say there is a hard and fast rule to it. If we wanted to go by a rule of thumb, if you wanted to follow the seasons of life in an ideal situation, we would say you study and then you get a job, right? That sequence is tidier, is cleaner, is neater. But for someone who has to pay their way through education, who doesn't have support from parents to provide money to pay the school fees, you might have to approach it differently, which goes back to the point around the available means we discussed earlier. The circumstances you find yourself will dictate the approach that are relevant to you. If your parents have already provided the resources for you to concentrate on studying, you're in a better position. If you don't have guardians who have provided enough resources, then you may be shooting yourself in the foot if you just believe that you will go to school and focus on schooling. Maybe you might want to combine it. I share a quick story. When I was on campus, my parents provided the resources I needed, but for some reason I got drawn into entrepreneurship, so I started a business on campus. It was a printing and photocopying business. I don't know if they do that here in Kenya, but for us, lecturers there would give you what they call, I don't know what they call it here, handouts, right? Do they call it the same thing? The lecture notes. And it's the responsibility of somebody to go photocopy it. So I started a business to be that person who would do the photocopy and distribute it to everybody. But not for free, obviously, right? I had a printer, I had a photocopier on campus, and so I was that person that would do that photocopying, right? And I was able to make extra money. I was able to hire people. At some point, I had 10 employees on campus. It was sweet money, right? And by the time I was graduating, I had some money, good money, right? I felt like a big boy, okay? But the point there is this: I did not need that money for my education, but I learned a lot of lessons in entrepreneurship, in diligence, in hard work, okay? So I think really it comes down to where you are in life. If you need the money to finance the education, it's a no-brainer. You know you need to have a job, maybe a job first, and then you have maybe a part-time kind of education structure that you put in place. If you have the resources already, all well and good, you can focus on your education, and afterwards you focus on getting a job. Whichever way you look at it, I don't think life is so cut out in a manner where we do this first and then we do that next. If you listen to what Beatrice said about developing certain things called executive presence, communication skills, those things become so important in leadership positions in organization, but you don't wait till you get to that point to develop those skill sets. In the same vein, I wouldn't say wait till you finish education before you start having a sense of what the job environment is like, what the work world is like. Start having a feel, start having a sense. Even if it's holiday jobs, even if it's a business you started to test your hand on things, and that can play in your favor. You know why? That goes into your CV as work experience. Beatrice, am I correct? It goes into your CV as work experience. I worked here, I worked there, I started a business, I was running this business. It can go into your CV, and it gives you an edge over someone who did absolutely nothing but go to school and came out with a degree when you get into the job market. So that would be my response to that question. Maybe Beatrice, should I come to you?
You've done an excellent job on that one. So I'll take the next question on when do you know is the right time to transition in your career. So this is how workplaces work. When you start on a new job, or when you start any work that you do, if you've never cooked chapati before, when you start learning how to cook, your skill set is 0. But as you practice, you become better and better at it, okay? Until you become an expert. So when you start out at a job, your skill, your knowledge and your skill is 0. Any job, even if you are a CEO of a company, when you go to a new environment, you almost start at 0. So ideally, from a HR perspective, we give it 0, we give it up to 3 years for us to say, now you've become a master in that job. So it's important because even when I'm interviewing you, I will check how long you stayed in the job. If I'm employing an accountant, you stayed for 2 months, what did you learn in 2 months? For you to come and take my job and tell me you know how to do it. So up to 3 years is when we know that you've mastered the job that you're doing. So give yourself up to 3 years before you make a switch, unless you're going to the same level, which we call it a lateral move. You are moving from an accountant here, you're going to the same level on this side. But if you want to grow, then you need to give yourself 3 years. So how do you know at which point you need to transition? You remember the strategy we put together? It's very important. There's something that will tell you along there that by this time I had told myself I was going here and this job is not serving my purpose. So when you're no longer, when you've overstayed a job 3 years, 6 years, 7 years, you're still in the same place, it's high time. If there's no opportunity in the company for you to move, it's okay for you to move to somewhere else. Also, the other thing you need to look at, are you having impact? Or has it become automated, like it's what you do, you know everything that needs to be done. But if you're in a company that you're not able to move at that point, but there is a possibility that you're looking at something else, because some companies have that discussion with you, they have career discussion, and they tell you this is how I'm seeing you moving in the next 3 years. Give them time. If they're not able to move you now, give them time. And have that career discussion. Every time you're told, when you're doing your performance appraisal, your boss is very important. There's one of the slides that we passed that had said, do not outshine your boss. We call them N+1s in the workplace. Those are very important people for your career and how you're going to move. Every time you get an opportunity to have one-on-one with them, every time you have an opportunity to have a performance discussion with them, always indicate that you want to move. If they do tell you, give me at this time, and then we are going to move you here, it is very important that you stay on and have that opportunity. But if another one comes across in another organization and you've been there for more than 3 years, you're not having impact in your job, it's a better prospect, then by all means, it's okay to move. At this point, I'll ask you to hold your ear, my Gen Z. Hold your ear and listen to me very well, okay? For the company that you're working in, we are living in the year of, we call it what, YOLO, you only live once. So now you get another job and you move immediately without serving notice. You have not looked at your contract. In my mother tongue, we say where you've come from, unaweza karudi. Please live well. Go and have a discussion. Serve your notice very well. Read your contract. How much notice do you need to serve? Even the new company that you're going into, they will look. We come and interview you and then we ask you, what's your availability? You say next week. We know you are lying and you're not a good employee. And honestly, we don't want to have such an employee who will also not serve notice especially for entry-level job, unless you are an expert. You are an automation machine operator, and you're the only one in Kenya. Then we might want to have you immediately. But really, if it is the entry jobs, please serve notice, live well, work to the last day, do not turn off. And now you've become an automation, you're coming to work at 10 o'clock, you're leaving at 3 o'clock, because you might leave me in this company and you will find me in the next. A lot of the top leadership, you will find them in the next company. Word of mouth is very important. Companies do something we call a reference. They will always call back and ask, how was this person? And your reference will be given by the people you worked. Some of them are official. It is written back and you're asked very nicely, give us a reference check for this. Some of them are in a club, the bar discussion, the bar parlor. They say, oh, by the way, so-and-so you used to work with them. And one confirmation can spoil everything. So when it's time to move, also move well, okay? Serve your notice, work with enthusiasm to the last day. These same people, especially in some professions, you will meet them elsewhere. As you go along the career, you will eventually end in a board together. You will eventually end up in an exco together, all right? So in response, 3 years is a good time to have learned a job. After that, start considering, look at your strategy. Is this the decision that I've made? Am I developing or am I doing the same thing? If you're not developing, it's a high time to start thinking of moving. But when that time comes for moving, move well. Okay? Thank you.
I can speak for personally to this because I currently still work, but I also have consulting work that I do. The way I would put this is, if you think long-term entrepreneurship is where you're going, don't be in a hurry to resign and go into that business. We say it this way, use your career to fund your passion, right? Use your career to fund your business. Where businesses struggle the most in the year 1, year 2, year 3, usually has to do with the capital requirement, right? You need capital to finance your business. So if you don't have a source of income, and in those years of struggle, because businesses struggle usually at the early stages. Customers are, they don't trust you yet. They don't know if you deliver the right quality. So you have to do a lot of convincing. Maybe you are doing some promos. You are giving some freebies just to make your name known by the market. Those freebies you are giving, you are financing it somehow. If you don't have a rich parent or somebody who is going to finance that business, then you use your career to finance that business. But what I always encourage people is this, from a place of HR and policies: don't let your business conflict with your career. Your company is selling, for illustration purposes, they are selling fish. You are doing a business, you're also selling fish. You know, it's becoming like a kind of conflict. In fact, where you are in the office where they are selling the fish, you may be poaching the customers of the office to your business. That starts talking about your integrity. You know, you don't want to do those kind of things. So don't do a business that will create conflict of interest between where you are working and the business you are doing. Don't snatch customers from here to take to your. In fact, even if you are not doing it, the perception when anybody finds out is that you probably are doing something of that nature. So if you are in career, first recommendation is don't be in a hurry to just resign because you have a business you've set up. That business must be able to pay you your annual salary before you say you are resigning to face it fully. Do you understand what I mean? You earn, what's the average typical salary? Somebody here in Nairobi? Maybe entry level, maybe a little bit above entry level. Maybe 80,000 Kenyan shillings per annum. You're earning that per month. Oh, sorry, per month, right? Per annum. So per month, 80,000 Kenyan shillings. Your business must be able to provide the same level of profit, sustainably, before you realize that, okay, it's about time for me to face this full time. Do you understand what I mean? Right? 80,000 might not be the exact figure, but the illustration I'm making is that if your business cannot finance your lifestyle currently, your lifestyle, your rent, your feeding, your transport, that your career is funding, don't be in a hurry to just resign and go into the business, all right? So use your career to fund your entrepreneurship journey, use it to fund your passion, use it to fund whatever it is you believe that you are building. Because the truth is this: some people are in jobs that they hate. True or false? You're doing a job, you don't like it, you hate it. Yes, you must make ends meet. You must pay your rent, you must pay your bills, you must buy your cream and buy your powder and your perfume, right? But you don't want to be stuck in a career where 5 years into it, you hate it. I mean, you go in every day with hatred and disgust and a down spirit. You can't expect that the HR department will suddenly realize that and maybe put you in a position that you will become happy. You must take personal responsibility to find a way to make a transition from a job that you are not being fulfilled in to something that will give you that fulfillment. It could be a new certification that will make you move it route. But if it is business, I won't say to you, because I hate this job, resign immediately and face your business. No, use that job to finance that business and let that business be stable enough to pay you the annual salary you are earning here before you make that decision of leaving. All right? But the point on don't conflict, avoid conflict of interest between your business and your career. And to summarize this point, this is how I say it. You work from 8 to 5, give your employer that time, but from your 5 to 8 or your 5 to 9, that is your own time, and in that time you can actually focus on your business and on your entrepreneurship journey. I think my wife would have been in the better position to answer this because this is the way she did her business. She was working somewhere 8 to 5, but when she closes from her job, 5 to 8, 5 to 9, she would focus on the business, and then she would say to her clients, Monday to Fridays, I'm not available. I'm only available on Saturdays and Sundays. Right? But it got to a point where the business income was much more bigger than what she was earning from the career, and she was able to resign neatly, cleanly, and move away from that. If I'm making much more from Saturday and Sundays only, then what if I put in Mondays to Friday to Saturday? I will earn much more. So that was the logic to arriving at that decision. It makes sense, it's clear, it's neat, it's tidy. You don't get stranded halfway. The problem with some of the entrepreneurs who want to do business and they rush to leave career, face business, and then you get to a point where you are stranded and then you can't even pay basic bills. So that would be my counsel and recommendation on that. I hope that's useful. All right, so the final question was on politics, office politics. I was naive earlier in my career. I did not realize that there was such a thing called office politics. I believed if I do my job well, my job will speak for me. Just the way Beatrice said earlier, sorry, your job will not really speak for you. It might speak for you to some extent, but there's a point where you must actually be aware There are people who are scheming. There are people who are saying things. There was a story that was created about me in the organization some time ago. Time will not permit me to share the details. But I heard that story. One of those days I was facilitating in an Excel class, and I asked everybody, have you heard this story before? And then almost half of the class raised their hand and said, they've heard that story. And it was a completely false story, right? So what you must be aware of is this. People talk. True or false? You know, my business school lecturer once said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered, there is politics. Even in our families, if we are being sincere, there's politics. Someone is lobbying daddy and lobbying mommy to get something, right? So once you are aware, you then know that politics is not necessarily a negative thing or a positive thing. It depends on why you are playing it. I have seen a situation where I had to lobby for someone who was being maltreated, someone who deserved promotion. You know those people who are doing their job well, but for some reason the line manager is not allowing them to rise, right? And that information came to my desk with my influence with the CEO. We brought out the case. We looked at the file. This person is an excellent performer. And we're able to lobby for that person to be promoted. Is that good politics or bad politics? Come on, guys. Is that good politics or bad politics? Good politics. So you can also have the negative side of it, where people who don't deserve what the promotion are lobbying and they are getting it, right? So for you is be aware that people are lobbying. And for ladies especially, it's been statistically proven. I think in the US and the Western statistics, they have it that ladies are much less likely to ask for a promotion even when they deserve it. And the guys in the office, they would ask for it. I have a colleague who works in my team. He's only worked with me for 1 year. He's asked me for a promotion twice. Right? Guys are much more quick to ask. He knows he's doing a good job, and he's asked me 2 times that, and I've assured him at a certain point in the year, ladies are less likely to ask that question when will I be promoted? So you must be aware that you must advocate for yourself. That's 1. 2, you must also have people who advocate for you. What does that mean? Build relationships beyond your line manager, right? And you must do this tactfully. You know, there must be other people in the boardroom, in that meeting where the discussion is being made, beyond your line manager. They call them advocates, people who will push your case, beyond your line manager, who would speak for you, who would add their voice when your discussion comes up. I've been in performance review meetings. Sometimes we put the picture of the person, we put the performance of the person, and everybody around the room, we discuss the person. You are not in that meeting. And the ground rule is this: whatever we discuss here stays here, right? But how many people are advocating for you in that meeting? So you only respect your line manager, you disrespect every other line manager, nobody can speak to you, nobody can interact with you. Well done. You've only shot yourself in the foot. So those are ways you can play good politics by building the right relationships beyond your line manager. I'll put it to rest here. Thank you.
1, 2, 1, 2. In addition to that, maybe what I'm going to add when it comes to office politics, do not gossip. Nobody is your friend. All that information goes around. Somehow it makes round. If you need to talk about somebody, always talk something positive, because even that positive will make round. And when they get to hear it, they'll be more aligned to you. And in those boardrooms that he was talking about, where you are not there, they become your advocate. So if you have anything bad to say, keep it to yourself, because that information does go round, and that person will get to hear it. Again, in the corporate world, do not ignore anybody, including the gatekeepers, okay? The people who are at the door, the secretaries, the tea people, you never know. That person could be taking a night course, and within a short time, you see they've joined your team, and they get better than you, and you start reporting to them. Treat everybody very well. Treat everybody just like the good book says, like you would want to be treated. Things go round, and eventually, either you might not work with them now, but you'll find them somewhere where you will need their help. That's what I can say.
Round of applause for my panelists.